Hello, everybody. How are you? Welcome. I always have to listen to just check that I'm actually live. So I always listen to my own live stream just to see. Welcome. Oh, I am. Yes, good. I am. Great. Hello, everyone. How are you all? Welcome to the 10th anniversary of Roswell Rising. And ironically, I got the original debunking article behind me. It's from the Roswell Daily Record, 9th of July 1947. General Ramey empties Roswell saucer. So yeah, that's very telling. Anyway, welcome everyone. Hope you're doing all right. Just go through your comments. We've already got a lot of people in comments. We've got 4 people watching. Sweeps. Sweeps seems I think there's a little bit of confusion about exactly when this live stream was scheduled. Sorry about that, Sweeps. I mean, ideally, you should get a notification from YouTube, shouldn't you? But they don't send you one. But I did try to keep you informed. Welcome, Skywatch Signal. How are you? Good to see you again. Thanks for tuning in the other day when we almost floated off. We kept our feet on the ground, didn't we, guys? We kept our feet firmly on the ground. Welcome. I hope you do enjoy it. I really, really do. We've got InsureTech who says here, evening, Ben. RD, the fake DEI professor is dead. Yes, this is breaking news, guys. It's literally just gone on the news a few minutes ago before he came on the air. Jason Arday, Cambridge academic who was falsely appointed a professor, has been found dead. It's very sad. I mean, this is really sad. I mean, there's been no verdict over what it is, but they say no crime is involved. This usually means he took his own life, and that's awful. He's got a kid and everything, and that's very, very sad. I think he's got 2 kids. Very sad indeed. But what and Sweep says, yeah, any updates? Did he do it himself? There's been no verdict. Like I said, they're going to appoint a coroner, but the police said there's no crime involved. That usually means it was a suicide, unfortunately. And that's awful. That's bloody awful. But, people couldn't, it may be because of all this pressure that he's been under, but what are we supposed to do? Keep quiet about it? I mean, I'm going to try and do something about this green screen. Just one moment. It's the lighting effect that's the problem. There's an argument to be made that in a sense he's like a victim rather than a perpetrator, and that Cambridge University kind of used him. This is Edward Dutton was saying this. There we are. Maybe that's a bit better. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. Clearly, it's I have to work on the lighting effects to get the green screen right. That doesn't make any. Anyway, we have here Crazy Swede. And is this your brother? Skywatch, that's cool. Welcome, both of you. And Nina Burns. Hi, Nina. How you doing? Hope you're all right. We got Tor Engen. Welcome. And Skywatch says this is a great channel. Thanks very much, Skywatch. Thanks for bringing your brother along. And Woody Black, yes. Skywatch Signal says, all right, you're suggesting that there's something suspicious about it. It's unlikely, I think, in this case. I mean, there was nobody really who would want to do this to him except himself because of all this. And it's sad, but I mean, of course, it's pretty clear that his whole past is a fantasy. His whole life is a fantasy. He's just written a book. Well, he used a ghostwriter, which is strange for it's just strange for an academic. He would need a ghostwriter, but he did, and it's full of all kinds of weird stuff, and when that's exposed, of course, that's enormously embarrassing. And InsureTech says they'll blame it on the far right. Yes, they will. They will. Unfortunately, it's going to be all the people who've been talking about him on social media are going to get the blame. No doubt, including me in this live stream, despite the fact, that this is devastating news. How are you, Wade Model Builder? And we've got Neil Peel. How are you? And we have here. Oh, Skywatch says, Crazy Sweet said, I always know that when you say so, it's for real. Well, I'm kind of one of the least, I'm not the most skeptical person in the world, am I? Anyway, let's begin with the notice comments, which is very easy because we've only got one from Mountain Goat. And funny enough, he did add a couple more since the last live stream, because he said first, and I did say, well done, MG. I've just answered in the live stream, and And he replied, "Sorry?" ? And I said, "We've had the first live stream. It's all right." That's it. So that's the only comments I got on the notice, which I've now deleted. But welcome all of you. Welcome all of you. So yeah, I can't believe it's actually 10 years since this appeared. It's glitching in the green screen, unfortunately. I think it's yellow. It's the yellow it doesn't like. I mean, because there's a lot of yellow in this painting by Annette Lemaire, the illustrator I used. And I think it's kind of... Oh, and Neil's just finished his new painting. We're on the subject. Well done, mate. Well done. Congratulations. But at least I can do this with the green screen. It doesn't just vanish. But as you see, my T-shirt's glitching a bit as well, because I think yellow and green are quite similar in wavelength. I'll know next time not to wear anything yellow when I'm presenting a live stream. But yeah, it's 10 years since this book appeared. Now, how the book actually came about is really quite an interesting story in itself. Because it's funny, with writers. I mean, I wrote this book in quite a short time. Hey, Rhiannon Raven, congratulations and happy anniversary, Ben. Thank you, Rhiannon. Thank you. How this book came about is very interesting, because writers are strange. Sometimes, even though they say it's perspiration, not inspiration. As you know, what I can be one of the laziest authors in the world, and I say lazy. I'm not lazy. It's just I'm doing so many other things that it's sometimes difficult to actually focus on taking the time out from what's going on in the world, like the gravity anomaly thing I talked about on Wednesday. You've got to take time out from that. You've got to focus away from it and immerse yourself in an imaginary private world of your own to build a story. It's a lot. There's a lot that takes a lot of time, and it's difficult to find that time. Wayne Model Builder says, "I'm actually looking for an original UFO Roswell kit to build on my channel, but they're rare and the ones available are extortion." There are a few. I mean, there's the Bob Lazar Sport model you can get, but that's a bit tricky, Wayne Model Builder. But I knew from your name you're into that sort of thing. But what happened was I wrote an article actually explaining how this came about. I called it Aurora. The article's called Aurora. That was back on the 5th of May, 2015. And it's amazing, actually, how quickly I wrote this book. As I said, when I do get going, I really get going. But it's like my story Ouija. I wrote this story Ouija in 1 week. This is amazing. This I don't know if you've read this short story. Please do if you get the chance, because I'm very proud of it. I did like a live. Well, it's one of my Halloween videos. I did like a live. I did a live thing for Ouija, but I wrote that in a week. This I wrote in a very short space of time for me. And then I talk about the serial. I actually started the serial, The Obscurati Chronicles, way back in 2013. I've actually restarted it completely differently. And then I was listening to an interview with the one and only Steve Bassett, who, as you know, I'm a huge fan of and have been for a long time. And then he said something very interesting. Actually, let's just see if the video's still there. Could it still be there?
We have been given the choice of making our planet uninhabitable.
Galactic Connection.
As we have been told
11
some
years
other
old.
species have done.
I've got to find 135.
Or we can move in the opposite direction of peace, love, justice, and cooperation.
Over time, it will exert influence on their worldview, but not right away.
Well,
it will take time. And so I just downplay the impact. An example of a transformative, overnight worldview change. We have a lot of evidence for what I consider probably the best example, and that is a near-death experience.
Oh, but it's coming onto it.
People who have a near-death experience, when they come out of it,
disclosure is imminent.
Hours, they're transformed individuals.
2015, I know. I thought it was.
That is a classic example. Will this be on that level? No, it will not. It will not. Because it's external. The near-death experience is happening directly to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it gets into some pretty heavy duty.
There's like a process of acclimation for.
And remember, keep in mind that half the world already is convinced they're here, and so being told by the government, it's like, I knew that already.
Yeah.
It just won't be that this big a deal as people think. It will be the most profound event in human history, measured by how many people are affected to whatever degree, and how quickly that takes place. Nothing comes close.
I think it'll be very, very impacting for specific communities that have been following it all along.
It's going to change my life.
It's
Yeah,
going to change
definitely.
my life big time. I
My
mean,
life will change massively, but again, I'm near the
Sure.
center of the storm.
definitely.
But what we need to be concerned about is what's the general population's response. And again, it's not going to be nearly as tumultuous or as extreme or radical as people think.
Yeah.
It just isn't going to be. And it never, well,
I don't know about that.
look, I will say this. If somehow disclosure had taken place in 1947, which it almost did because of the Roswell crash, Truman, obviously they notified Truman almost immediately, and he's digesting that, but the press release got out, which was a mistake, but an honest mistake. The person that did it didn't get penalized. Truman had to get to Ramey, who was the next high up, and they had to orchestrate a new press conference. And they were moving very fast.
That's where the
Yeah.
General Ramey
So they got that second press conference, and then the next art went out the next day in the Roswell paper. And because back then the trains and the boats and the planes were a lot slower than they are now, all the reporters that were headed for Roswell, the plenty of them, just turned around and went home. Now, if for whatever reason Truman had been distracted or they got confused or they didn't act fast enough, and those reporters had gotten there, and they got all these people in Roswell that have seen this and seen that and been around, they start interviewing them, it was over.
Yeah.
They had disclosure in 47. Now, I will say this, that the announcement of the ET presence in 47 would have been a much more difficult pill to swallow. And it would have been much more upsetting to a larger number of people. I happen to believe it would have been a very good thing. It would have completely changed the 20th century. Remember, it would have happened in 47 before we had any significant arsenal of nuclear weapons or the Soviet Union either. And so now we know there's an extraterrestrial presence. Would we have still ended up building 70-some thousand nuclear weapons? I don't think so. Would the Cold War have lasted? I don't think so. I believe it was one of the great lost opportunities in all of human history.
Yeah, that's true.
However, one could also make the argument that that announcement would have so further complicated the developing geopolitical situation that it would have possibly led to a war, right? And one can imagine that happening. And so they got the new press conference and they shut it down. I don't think the ETs had anything to do with that, right? As a matter of fact, I can imagine the ETs thinking, "Wow, that's going to definitely do it."
What's he
Right?
say?
Cat's out of the bag now.
Yeah, it's
But it did happen. All right.
1:35.
So
Yeah.
that's a
coming.
book worth. If I didn't have ADDH and TV addiction or whatever the hell, that would make a fantastic book. To write a book in which Roswell ends up triggering disclosure in 1947 and then describe the 20th century. I'm sure somebody will do it, but not me. I can't sit still on it.
Well, believe it or not,
Yeah, someone did it. Someone did it. Yeah, Steve actually says here, quite clearly, to write a book in which Roswell ends up triggering disclosure in 1947 and describe the rest of the 20th century after that. I'm sure somebody will do it, but not me. Who? And I listened to that. I listened to what you were just hearing 11 years ago, and I thought, why don't I do it? And I actually emailed Steve. I emailed Steve about this, about my intentions, and he was very supportive of this. He really, really was very keen that I should do this. And so I got to work on it, and I called it I called it Aurora. I mean, that was a working title. And I changed it very, very quickly to Roswell Rising, a novel of disclosure. I thought Aurora just sounded, I mean, it's kind of like dawn. It means dawn, you know. Anyway, how are you all, guys? You're all here. Any new people have just arrived? Nothing, it seems, is here. Hello, nothing. How are you? And Tessa11111, how are you? Nice, glad you're here, guys. Nice, glad you're here. Yeah, so I called it Aurora as a working title, and got to work, and the end result was this: Roswell Rising, a novel of disclosure, published 10 years ago today. Well, that's when because it was self-published. There's no kind of like official launch moment. It's just it goes live at a certain point, and I end up just putting a notice up. I mean, I measured that from the day that it went live, and I could put the notice up. Now there have been alternative histories before. Now, alternative histories, alternate history, it's set in an imaginary world based on our own, although its backdrop is some event that happened in the past differently to how it actually did. And Robert Harris's Fatherland, set in the 1960s, but it's an alternative history setting in which Nazi Germany prevailed through World War II. And this actually is the same plot line of Man in High Castle by Philip K. Dick that's been made into a pretty good TV series, actually. Now, there's another one, actually. It's a really, really good one, actually. Where is it? Let me just see if I can find. Now, I read this. This is bloody good. There's a comedy called Comrade Dad. I don't know if you've seen Comrade Dad. It's on YouTube if you want to watch it. It's very funny. It's a comedy with George Cole. And it's not really alternative history. It's more kind of like alternative future because it was made in the 80s. I think in the 70s or 80s when the Cold War. And it was imagining that the Soviet Union actually conquered the West and created world communism. It's actually it's supposedly satirical. It's actually quite lighthearted. All right, guys. So let's see the years of. Here this is it. This is a very interesting book here. The Years of Rice and Salt. Now, I do recommend this book. This is an alternative history book by Kim Stanley Robinson, which is interesting because Kim Stanley Robinson is best known as a science fiction author. He's best known as a science fiction author. There we go. But this is his first historical novel. This is, as far as I know, it's the only historical novel he ever wrote. Whereas I've actually written 3 historical novels, plus I'm working on a series, a historical novel series. The Obscurati Chronicles is set in the sort of immediate aftermath of World War I in the sort of 1920s. But this is a really, really good a book, and it says here alternative history, and there's lots of, if you click on alternate history, there's loads and loads of examples you can get. I'm just going through Wikipedia now. But the Years of Rice and Salt, the fundamental premise is that the Black Death destroyed European civilization. And it says here, it's a subgenre of speculative fiction in which one or more historical events happen differently than they really did. It's a what-if point of divergence in human history, and these works typically feature a point of divergence from recorded history. In my case, in the case of this book, it is the writing, it is the event, the disclosure event, and its cover-up. It didn't happen. What would happen if it didn't happen? I say this on the book, on the blurb. What if that cover-up never happened? And there's George. Oh, right. The works of fiction set in the past or present, but written in that time period. Alternative history similar but distinct from secret history. Antiquity, medieval, 19th century. H.G. Wells and Modern Utopia. There's quite a lot of these, actually. There's quite a lot of these types of books. So H.G. Wells wrote several of these. Robert Heinlein wrote a novelette called Elsewhen, in which a professor trains his mind to move across timelines. He hypnotizes his students. Right, I see. Yeah. So I'm going through these various things. Quantum theory, many worlds. I suppose this could fit into what you might call the many worlds hypothesis, because it's dealing with a distinct a distinct world that is essentially like ours, but something different. And what's interesting is that Bryce Zabel also expressed his intention to write an alternative history of Roswell as well. I was kind of like in a bit of a panic because I thought, hang on, this is my idea. I mean, of course, there's no copyright on ideas, but yeah, it's and I'll just go to your. We've got English TK. Hello. I'm just going to go to your comments again. And Skywatch Signal says Ben's a murder mystery fan as well. Going by that sidebar. Oh, you noticed? Yeah, of course, because I'm logged in. I'm getting into these interrogation videos, these police interrogation videos, because they're bloody good, and they're really it's good because it's a mean old world, but in these interrogation videos, you get to see the bad guys actually cornered. It's pretty good and get done. Tessa says here, like the multiple biblical translations, Roswell had to be curbed until the powers that be gain control or maybe trades. Now, why Roswell was covered up? I mean, this is something I explore in the book, even though it was because you see what happens in the book is that there's an attempt to cut after disclosure in the post-disclosure world. There's an attempt to roll it back. It turns out that, well, basically, in this book, the actual disclosure you get is actually not real disclosure. I'm not going to give you spoilers, but that's kind of what happens. And it's basically it fits around the Project Bluebeam thing, basically the fake alien invasion. Once disclosure happens and this article you see behind you is cancelled, they then decide to like, yeah, we'll go with it and say they're aliens, and we'll bring in that we will do the fake alien invasion thing, that kind of thing. Yeah. Nothing says, yeah, I was looking into who was Goddard, who was Goddard was, as it turned out, he built his own launch pad in Roswell, New Mexico. All right. I think that's a conversation I had with someone else. And Sweep said, if it wasn't for Stanton Friedman, well, bless him, sadly missed, whom I knew started investigating and actually putting the Roswell incident front and center, the whole Roswell happening could have been overlooked. True group. Yeah. I mean, it was basically Stan's work, and it was Stan who met, in 1978, he met Jesse Marcel. And everything else, like Berlitz and Moore's book, that all comes from Stan's research. Yeah. Hello, DJ. Welcome. How are you? An afternoon nap turned into a proper sleep. Yes. And in short text says, the fall of England, the Battle of Dorking, 1871 is an alternative history. They're quite common, actually, these alternative histories. And indeed, when you get into the idea, I mean, they are plausible when you get into the world of when you get into the realm of parallel universes and the feasibility of those. Definitely. So that's what I wanted to write, and I did. I wrote this book, which was actually quite good fun. And I'm going to read you a few passages from it, actually, because it begins just before the point of divergence, and just shortly before the 4th of July, the 4th. When the crash actually happened, it's not known. We know that the 8th of July was when the article was published. But it begins with Clayne. Now, the main character is a guy called Clayne Quilly. He's kind of American, but he's got good Irish roots, a bit like Sweeps. I didn't actually base the character on Sweeps. I had this vision in my head, actually. Well, I mean, I know what he looks. I know his personality, and indeed, I think some of the reviews I get on Amazon, which I'll read to you in a minute. The characterization I was quite good in this book. I think it falls off in the last book of the trilogy that's redeemed, and I will do like 10-year anniversaries for those as well when the time comes. Come back, Ben. But I think I got the characterization quite good in this one and Roswell Revealed. Brendan Quilly I thought was a little bit weak, didn't quite work, but maybe that's because I was dealing with a concept that really can't be described, and I'll say more about that another time. Perhaps on the 10th anniversary of that novel as well. What I have written about describing the post-Illuminati world. You see, it can be summed up basically. This is the book where you get fake disclosure. Roswell Revealed is where you get real disclosure, and Roswell Redeemed is the post-disclosure world. But Clayne is having a bit of a meltdown because of things to do with he was he like most men, he was in World War II, and he's having a bit of a meltdown about that. Also, his marriage is broken down to his wife. His wife, he is from New York City, and he's part of the big Irish community there. But he's, because of reasons I won't go into. I won't read every single part of the first few chapters, but I'll read several passages. But basically, he's had to move to Roswell, and his wife and he are getting divorced, and he's very upset about that. He's got a 12-year-old daughter called Siobhan, who is the main character in the second one. That's Roswell Revealed. And he has a little bit of a meltdown, and he goes out of Roswell, just driving into the desert. And he goes back to the Roswell Daily Record, where he is a journalist. And he writes the original Roswell story as well. And his boss is very angry with him, but then he gives him a second chance. But then he says, I might decide to give you some punishment duties. And then he goes back to his desk thinking he's got off well. And then Owen Mollett, the editor, comes out and says, and so he begins this is the 3rd of July. He says he loaded a sheet into his typewriter, he lit a cigarette, and began, as always, with today's date, Thursday, the 3rd of July, 1947. I've tried to make it accurate. So, I mean, one thing I've done with these characters is I've tried to make their dialogue accurate, and indeed their attitudes accurate. So, for example, in this day, you never walk into an office and light up a cigarette because there are all no smoking areas. But in 1947, you could. And these people, I mean, this is where it gets a bit controversial. And this is why the typesetter, I think, funny enough, I'll tell you the story when I review the second book for the anniversary. The typesetter ditched me after the second one because it's a bit politically incorrect. But they have the kinds of attitudes you would expect of people living that time. I modeled their dialogue on contemporary movies, like, for example, Harvey with James Stewart, It's a Wonderful Life with the same actor, things like that. And they have the same attitudes to things such as race and gender roles. I mean, nothing annoys me more than watching a movie or reading a historical novel or a historical film where you get some modern person who's just shoved back into the past. That really annoys me. There's too many of those. And you get a historical setting basically with a modern person in it who speaks like a 21st century person, has 21st century attitudes, has the same left-wing ideas that are kind of dominant in the 21st century. That really annoys me. A good example, I mean, it's quite a good film, but Bridge of Spies is a good example. Tom Hanks's character is like that, and I think it's not very well done. It's not very well done indeed. I'm going to pull that out. I don't think that's helping much. There we go. Maybe that will make it better. Anyway, let's see who's here. Hatchie is here. Hello. How are you? Ben, you're a good man. My friend has had a fox in here house tonight. In here house. A fox in the house. All right. That happened in Awake and Aware, remember? Yeah. And yeah, I mean, in short, I hate revisionists. Yeah, I mean, if you mean what I'm just talking about, then yeah, I mean, obviously, in a sense, what old history is a revision, but it's still, it's in a sense, it's a fantasy revision. But anyway, he's writing the article he's been working on, and then Owen Mollett appears. Quilly, the smell of cigar smoke and unwashed clothes told Klein that the editor was standing behind him. It took a moment for his eyes to refocus as he turned away from his typewriter. Mr. Mollett, I have an assignment for you. I already have one, sir, he said, pointing to the typewriter. Put that aside and do this instead. What, sir? This is the Cochrane case. It's dynamite. The editor tossed an envelope onto his lap and gave him a stern look that indicated his position was not negotiable. Klein picked it up. It was already opened and smelled of perfume. He pulled out the letter and began reading its neat feminine handwriting. Dear Roswell Daily Record, I'm a faithful reader of yours for over 20 years. Never miss an issue. Delivered every day. He skipped to the next paragraph. Was out on my porch last night and I saw a light in the sky. It got brighter and brighter until I saw that it was a disc-shaped thing, like those flying saucers we've been hearing about. The author went on to describe her experience in more detail. It was signed, Mrs. Amelia Crew, Picacho, Lincoln County. Check it out, Quilly. But Mr. Mollett, this is a flying story. This is a flying saucer story. Correct. You can't be serious. Quilly, for the next month, you are RDR's official flying saucer correspondent. Somebody on the neighbouring desk giggled. So he's been made flying saucer correspondent as punishment for being absent from work. Okay. Which, of course, that's at that moment it seems like a great punishment, but then strange things starts happening. There was a big storm the next day, and he goes to interview this lady, like I said, and there's this farmer as well who finds a crop circle in his field, and then something very strange happens. He goes to the cinema at the weekend, and it's like a weekend, and the office is not quite so packed. And then Marietta, one of his colleagues, says, "I've got a weird lead, a phone call from a policeman's wife in Corona. Apparently the army are out there right now. They've closed down a couple of roads leading off the 247 highway, armed roadblocks and everything." Klain chuckled. "Germans or Russians?" She frowned in mock reproach. "Klain, this is not the National Enquirer." And then so Marietta phones Klain to tell him what's going on. I mean, no one knows exactly what it's about. It might just be a silly lead. But it turns out that the army have sealed off a huge area of Western Lincoln County, which is where the crash happened. And then Mollett sends him to the down to the base, and they won't let him in. He wants to speak to Lieutenant Hout, and then he gets a phone call from Jesse Marcel, who's a kind of friend of his, and they've fallen out over another issue. But Jesse tries to tell him the truth, and he won't listen to him because he's just fed up with this. He's fed up with the whole thing because he doesn't want to be this flying saucer correspondent. He doesn't understand the gravity of the situation that he's in. And then the following day, Mac Brassel comes and sees him. And Klain actually has to go and actually examine this mutilated cow in his field. And then it gets a bit silly, I suppose, at this point, because I bring Hilda Blair Ray into it because I make her a character. She's the lady with the mummy photo. Oh god, I shouldn't have done that, but she comes in on it as a minor character. And then he bumps it, and then Glenn Dennis contacts him, the mortician, and he finds him in the. Glenn actually comes charging out of the gate. He goes down to try and talk to. He goes back to the base to try and talk to people, and he has to avoid colliding with a large black vehicle as it emerges from the exit lane at high speed. And he sees the words Ballard Funeral Home, Roswell, New Mexico, on the side of it, and it's basically Glenn Dennis. He's just been kicked off the base, even though he works there, and he basically gets. Glenn is like really, really angry, and he's saying, "What's going on here? Well, I worked there, and they threw me out. This is really angry. I mean, they just grabbed hold of me and pushed me around like I was a common criminal." And he talks about how they wanted child-sized caskets. So basically, someone from the base, I give a fictional name, asked Glenn for these child-sized caskets, and then a couple of days later, Glenn contacts him again because his girlfriend has revealed what she saw, and we know the story about this girlfriend. I mean, Stan actually managed to find out who she was, who actually told him secretly that she'd seen these grey bodies with the weird four-fingered hands and things like that. And so Glenn goes and he confesses to Klain what he's seen, and then he goes back to the next day. He goes, which is the 8th of July. He goes back to work at the offices of the Roswell Daily Record, and Mollett, the editor, Owen Mollett, is not there. And then he comes, and everyone's weird because he basically lives in that office of his. And then when he comes back, they even phone the hospital to check he's not been admitted. And then it says Mollett appeared suddenly at 11 o'clock. Everyone stopped and stared at him as he entered the office. His face was a mask, revealing nothing. "Tristan!" he barked urgently. "Sir!" responded the junior, standing up straight like a soldier. "Is the telex switched on?" "Yes, it is, sir." "Good. Everybody, hold all pages. Quilly!" Mollett didn't wait for him to affirm and just strolled over to his cubicle. As Klein entered after him, the editor was feverishly lighting a cigar. "Mr. Mollett, where were you this morning?" asked Klein. "At the base." "The RAAF?" "Yes, I had a meeting with Lieutenant Walter Howe. Do you know him?" "Of course, sir. He's their press officer." Mollett managed to get his cigar alight as he puffed it a few times until it was burning properly. "I know you resent me, Quilly." He spoke without looking at Klein. "You think I'm putting you down by giving you this flying saucer assignment. Don't expect me to deny it." Klein glared at his boss's sweaty nape. Mollett turned and met his gaze as poker-faced as ever. "You might feel differently by the end of today. Go and watch the telex. There's something coming through for you. When you get it, do me something for page 1, 200 words or so. We'll go to press as soon as you're through." "Page 1?" "You heard me correctly. Get to the telex." So Klein then went to the telex, and then this press release comes out, and he says, "What?" And he goes and knocks on the editor's door. "Come, Mr. Mollett." He held up the telex printout. "Excuse me, sir, but what the hell is this?" "It's your story. Now get to work." So Klein then does his he writes the article, and it takes down to the print shop, and it says and as the collatus and the machine starts rolling, and I describe how the machine starts rolling. The collators separated out the sheets and neatly folded them together, and eventually the finished copies of the Roswell Daily Record for July the 8th, 1947, filed out along the conveyor. Enoch, that's one of the printing guys, Enoch picked one of them up and handed it to Klein, who nodded and smiled in thanks. He took a few more of them with him up to the office, still warm and smelling of ink. He dropped one off in Mollett's cubicle and then walked around the office, placing them on people's desks. He saved the last one for himself. He sat back in his chair and studied the smooth new copy of the familiar newspaper. Its banner was in elaborate Gothic typeface, the name of the paper in the middle and its phone numbers at the side. Below that was a bar with the date, place of publishing, and price, 8 cents. Then beneath that was his front page article. Its headline was simple, factual, and unimaginative. RAAF captures flying saucer on ranch in Roswell region. Subtitled. No details of the flying disc are revealed. And then, of course, there's the big, just for a few hours after that, there was this massive press frenzy. And then Owen Mollett sends him to Fort Worth, Texas, to attend the press conference with General Ramey. And it's a long way away, but he gets Hilda Blair Ray to fly him in her plane. He lands there, and they go into the office, and everyone thinks, no one knows there's going to be a cover-up. Everyone thinks this is going to be an update on the aliens and the flying disc that's been in the news all day. And then suddenly, and I say here that they were given refreshments, then asked to go and sit in a large conference room with wooden chairs around the wall. In the corner, there was a steel radiator, off at this time of year, of course, beneath a curtained window. The curtain had flowery prints on it, and there was a black cloth sash lying loosely on top of the radiator. There was a thin, stringy carpet that left the parquet floor and the walls clear. More people joined them, fellow newsmen and from other papers. Klein recognized some of them, and they chatted, catching up on old times. A door opened at the far end of the room, and a high-ranking RAAF officer walked in. He was a brigadier general with a row of shoulder stars and a Persian rug of medal ribbons on the breast of his jacket. His face was severe and mustachioed. To Klein, he resembled the actor Clark Gable. And he does. If you look at Roger Ramey and look Clark Gable together, they're like twins. "Ladies and gentlemen, my name is General Roger Ramey of the 8th Army Air Force. We'll be starting the press conference in 20 minutes. Please take time to make your preparations." And just as he exited, and then a man comes in and drops with a cardboard box and tips the box upside down and empties its contents onto the floor in the corner. And he returned to the adjacent room without acknowledging the reporters and shut the door. Klein moved closer and saw that the material from the box, now strewn on the parquet floor, was a pile of broken wooden struts and crumpled and torn metallic foil. He turned to Tom and frowned. "What's going on?" Tom was all set up in good time. Tom is the photographer. By the time the door opened and 5 men marched formally out into the room, led by General Ramey. "Jesse!" Klein gasped aloud. One of the men was Jesse Marcel. The major looked up at his name being called briefly and met his friend's eyes before snapping back into professional catalepsy. Behind his military poise, Klein could see that Marcel was in mental turmoil. His eyes were blank and his cheeks were flushed. The row of men was stood at ease, and General Ramey stepped forward. "Ladies and gentlemen of the press," he said, "I've invited you here today to give you the real story behind what happened yesterday in relation to that claim that the Roswell Army Air Force had salvaged the remains of a flying saucer. I'm afraid the truth is far more mundane. Major Jesse Marcel here," he pointed at Jesse, "made a mistake. What he thought were fragments of a shipwreck from the stars were actually just a high-altitude weather balloon. What you see before you are the shattered pieces of just one such balloon. These are the very fragments that Major Marcel found. The foil pieces are part of a radar reflector. Warrant Officer Newton will explain." And it carries on like that. And then they start taking the photographs, and Jesse is crouching down, holding up, and I say here, the smell of burnt magnesium filled the air. Major Jesse Marcel squatted down in front of the radiator and the wooden chairs, holding up one of the largest pieces of the weather balloon in his hands. He managed to force a thin smile as he gazed up at the press gang. And if you watch that photo, if you look at the photo, you'll see that Jesse is actually smiling slightly. And then Klein goes back, and he has to write the article based on that press conference, and it says here, "Klein entered Mollett's cubicle and handed him the draft. The editor put on his spectacles and read, the article is okay, but Roswell flying disc turns out to be Army weather balloon. Not a very good title, Quilly. Can you come up with something punchier, with a bit more style? Use a pun or a metaphor of some kind." Klein returned to his desk and loaded the typewriter. As always, he began with today's date, Wednesday, 9th of July, 1947. After some deliberation, he came up with, "General Ramey empties Roswell saucer." And then and then what happens is they prepare the newspaper, and then he takes it down to Enoch and the other printers, and they load it. They said these were then loaded. The type is set in these text blocks, pre-computers, and they're loaded into this huge machine which begins churning like rock crushers. Chains relayed, rollers rotated, the mechanical behemoth steadily digesting their instructions before neatly excreting newspapers. "Stop!" The voice was audible even above the din of the machines. They all turned and stared. The sight that met their eyes was the last they had expected. Owen Mollett, editor of the Roswell Daily Record, stood in the open doorway. He was waving a sheet of paper in his hand. Enoch recovered from his surprise and turned to his team. He drew his hand flat and horizontally beneath his chin, and the men fiddled with levers and buttons. The printing machines ground to a halt. The following silence was the deepest and most uncanny Klein Quilly had ever heard. Slowly, one by one, the printers removed their earmuffs. Their faces were grey and ashen in the garish light. Mollett, not the fittest man in the world, was out of breath from his run downstairs. "Stop the press! Scratch the entire issue!" he puffed. "Quilly, this is just in on the AP wire." He waved the chit. "We're to withdraw the entire story from the Fort Worth press conference." "Who says?" asked Klein. "General Ramey?" "No!" Mollett was grinning with excitement. "Washington!" Enoch and the other printers muttered it with surprise too. "This is direct from the White House," confirmed Mollett. "The president is going to address the nation at 6 p.m. "But Mr. Mollett, this can only mean—" "That's right, Quilly. The Roswell flying saucer is real." And that's the point of separation. I won't read you any more of the rest, but that's the entire story up to the point of separation. So the point of departure. What's it called? Hang on. The POD, is it point of departure? Let's going back here. Just go back to the top. It's point of, what was it? Point of divergence. That's it. Point of divergence. Anyway, who's there? How are you going on? Nothing that says an audio book in Ben's actual voice. Yes, I'm not a very good reader. Hello, John Fused. How are you? DJ says Andy Burnham's regime issued a lot of do not start fires. Yeah, I've heard that. My daughter got one of those. I didn't, but it was like, be careful where you're going. Don't drop cigarettes. Put them out properly. Stuff like that. Oh, Tessa says here, have so enjoyed Ben's Roswell trilogy so much. Thank you, Tessa. I'm glad you liked it. I really am glad you liked it. But Sweeps, who says here, early UFO alien pioneers have to mention that Glenn Steckling, director of the Adamski Foundation, has passed away. A good friend, did work and videos with him. Sad parting. I'm really sorry, man. I'm really sorry, Sweeps. I've not heard of this chap, but I know about the Adamski Foundation, and I actually interviewed Gerard Arzer, who was a member of the Adamski Foundation. I didn't know about that. Sorry, but thanks for letting me. And deepest condolences. Pooja Pants is here, who says, greetings, Ben. I took down all of my ceramic trinkets and precious items in preparation for the gravity shift. It took me 3 weeks straight, lots of bubble wraps and ropes, all for nothing. I should have kept my mouth shut, shouldn't I? Oh, dear. Pooja, I'm sorry, mate. I'm sorry if I led you up the garden path there. I'm really sorry, man. I really am. John Fuse says, not enjoying the heat. Me neither. I've actually got an article. I've just written this article. It's worth checking out. Let me just show it to you. I've just written an article about all that. Here it is. It's called Why the Heat Wave. There you go. You go read that on Hapanmo. Oops, come on in. Read this on Hapanmo voice. There you go. And it says, I'm fed up with it too. I really am. So the book came out. It's done all right. I mean, I won't say exactly how many sales I've had because the trolls will make hay with it, and they'll do things like people say I'm making a grift and things like that. But I'll say as much to say I haven't made enough money to retire, but I have made a bit of a supplementary income, which has been useful, definitely. And we have here, like, I'll just show the Amazon page because I have had some reviews. Now, I had a bit of a problem, which is that some review trolls have come about. And I know people will try to claim this is not the case. But here you get it on Amazon, £10, like I said. As you can see, look at the cover. Do you see the mistake? I've bled the stripe on the spine. It's bled over slightly onto the front cover. I couldn't be bothered to get it fixed. But as you can see here from ratings, it's not brilliant. I've got quite a few, 61% 5-star, 9 4-star, 6% 2-star, and look, 24% 1-star ratings. And some people like it, like Catkin here says it's lively, pacey, a good read. And well-written, jam-packed with good prose, says Jane. Thank you, Jane. Brilliant book, says Mark Crane. 5 stars, thank you very much. Excellent read, says Kay Lane. And here we are, Trevor Durant, amateurish, cliche, heavy dross, don't bother. Right. It's just like, I've been fascinated with Roswell for years, and if it's time for me to mature and move on, reading this load of old tripe has done its job. I never want to see or hear the word Roswell again. Mr. Emlyn Jones's fictional account is tedious beyond tedious. I struggled through, but couldn't continue before halfway, so I admitted defeat. Very rare for me not to finish, even with mediocre, dull novels. Everything is so hammy and over-prescriptive. It reads just like an amateur, po-faced crap effort, which is what it is. Why, on the first page, I think it does the protagonist pull off his sweat-drenched tie. Why would a tie be sweat-drenched? The shirt, I can understand. I realized from that first page, I'd made a colossal mistake. Right, well, I think that's the only page you read. And this guy here, this Simon Disco, Roswell, a novel of tedium. I had been disappointed by this so-called hot young author from Wales before. I'm a hot young author, am I? Oh, good. Well, I suppose I was when I wrote Evans Land. I have a substandard IQ, but I was being patronized here. If there's a 4th book, and boy, does the world not need it, I won't be purchasing. All right. But Mr. J.M. Zielinski, who's actually a Brother Porter, Pride and Dignity brother, really liked it. And this is really, really cool. Mad Hatter again. So it's more reviews and it goes on like that. But I mean, the fact of the matter is, most of these bad reviews were all written by the same person or group of people. And DJ says Trevor Durant probably got the Billy Boys 2021 arm experiment needle. Well, I think he's somebody. Trevor Durant, I think, is somebody I know, and I know him because he is the guy who wouldn't meet me in Watford. Do you know what I'm talking about here? Are you aware of the Watford story? Let me just show you a few things here. I'm just gonna show you something. It's here we go. If I can find it, I'll use it. Where is it? Because I wrote an article about this because this was a real problem. This became a real problem because I've got this on all 3 books have this problem. And here, this is look, this is from Tropic Thunder. Look out, we have an internet tough guy. And here you go. This is the various bad. This is Roswell Reveal's also very, very bad review I got. Oops, sorry. And as I say, the truth of the matter is all these reviews are by just 2 or 3 people posted from multiple accounts, and none of them have read either book. They are trying to sabotage my sales by filling the review list with negative comments to discourage others from reading. This is far more serious than the usual verbal abuse I get, because this could affect my livelihood. This is the most spiteful, gutless, and juvenile thing I can think of. And again, I talk about Watford confronting Droik, which, do you remember this one? If you haven't seen this video, please do watch it. And I'm grateful to the very genuine people who've left appreciative comments. And hopefully these will outweigh the nasty negativism of the trolls and expose them for the fraudulent posers that they are. I've contacted Amazon to find out if I can take further action. Unfortunately, I can't remove those comments. And, you know, even if the people if I had like bad reviews from genuine people, even that wouldn't bother me. As the saying goes, there's no such thing as a bad review. Anything that mentions your name adds to sales. But these people, the volume of the awful reviews they kept giving me made it actually, and it was indeed a sabotage attempt. But it's right, you know, I'm quite pleased because now do you know if you were ever oh, CC, oh shit, I'm late, Ben. Oh, don't worry about it, CC, you can catch up. If you are ever writing a book, right? If you ever like, especially if you're self-publishing like I am, which I think most authors do that these days because it's so easy. And DJ says here, this is a good point. 70% of reviews 4 stars or over is decent, even with the sabotage. That's right. Despite the trolls, there's been enough genuine people who like the book to outweigh that. Now, as I said, if you ever self-publish, right, you'll be offered a deal. I mean, like Ingram Spark, the one I use, they offer you a deal. They say you pay like £70, and it's quite a lot because publishing, self-publishing is very cheap. You submit a proper copy, that is the book design, costs you like £21, and things like that. And then they send you back the proof, and you just approve it, and then it just rolls off the press. Print on demand. It's very, very easy. And then they take their cut of the sales, which is much, much lower than than like a wholesaler's discount or a retailer's discount or the publisher's cut. You know, and the thing is, if you sign a contract with an existing house, you know what happens? Supposing your book's worth £10, right? Like this one is. You sign a book with sign a deal with like a HarperCollins or something, right? Do you know how much you get? Do you know how much the author actually gets when everyone else has taken their bit? The publisher, wholesaler, retailer, distributor. Do you know how much the author gets? I'd get about 50p per copy as the author. I'm not kidding you. Now, if you self-publish, you get a bit more. You don't get it all because the self-publisher has to make a living too. But you get like at least 50p. You get like at least £5. Oh, Ollie says here, Roswell is located on the 33rd degree parallel. Oh my goodness me, how Masonic! I didn't know that. And then CCG says, yeah, not to mention the literary agent's cuts. Yes, most authors will try to get a literary agent, and if you do that, it's actually quite a good idea because firstly, it saves you a hell of a lot of work because they do it for you. And secondly, anything that comes from a literary agent is given priority in the when it comes to like commissioning the editors. That is the actual publishing editor that decides what books they're going to publish. Anything they actually call it the slush pile. Things that are just sent from the author are called the slush pile, and so they're actually given less priority, and they just sort of look through it after they've gone through all the stuff from agents. The agent usually takes about 20% of what you make. So that's even less. You're right. So it's a no-brainer. I mean, self-publishing is the really with print on demand. It's the only viable option, I'd say. But I would add, especially if you're not like famous, I suppose. If J.K. Rowling wrote a new book, obviously, yeah, she would I think she would obviously use a publisher. But, you know, if you're not that, then you're a debut novelist, then yeah, definitely. Now, I should point out that they'll offer you a deal. Now, once you've paid all the small amount of money to get your book published, they'll offer you something that's a bit more expensive. It can be anything from £70 to £150, but it gets your book listed on their catalogue, on their advertising catalogue. Do it. Please do it. Because I'll tell you what, if you do that, and it means that your book appears in ads. And I know this because I've actually had adverts sent to me for my own book. This is really, really good. Nothing that seems to self-audio version, please. I mean, yeah, an audio book maybe an audio book's not a bad idea. I mean, I won't do a Kindle or anything like that for reasons you can probably guess. And DJ B2 makes another good point here. The problem with the legacy publishing industry is they're more interested in DEI and woke crap these days. Oh, God. Yeah, yes, indeed. In fact, I call this the Atwood effect after Margaret Atwood. And I think I've explained this several times in my movie review videos. But basically, it's especially the like, what's it called, Get Out. And indeed, to a lesser extent, I think Ryan Coogler's films, although he's slightly better than Jordan Peele. But basically, the Atwood effect says that if you are a bad writer or a bad filmmaker, right, you can become very, very successful if you add conceptual elements that are on message. And let's face it, you know, The Handmaid's Tale is a feminist orgy. You should grow arse-length dreads, Ben. Oh, I'd had a bit of trouble now, I would. That'd take a long time, but thanks, CCG. Great info, thank you. But I've actually, you see, if you go just looking for a book about Roswell, you know how you get the ads that are tailored to your needs. I've been complaining about this because they seem to even know what I'm talking about. Do you remember the story of my tripod that got lost? This is different though. You start searching for books about Roswell, and it's amazing what happens. It may even happen this time. Let's just try and see what happens. Books about the Roswell incident. Right, you just do this. Just look for books about the Roswell incident. There's loads of them there, as you can see. It could be this. It might even actually appear in this list. But obviously there's lots of like this. The Roswell incident by Charles Bullis and William Moore. I've got a copy of that. There's many others. But sometimes what happened when you start doing this, I don't expect it to appear in this list because it's only like the big ones that'll appear in this list. There's good old Stan, bless him. Crash at Corona, that's his book. But sometimes you'll go back and you'll find that you suddenly start, you get ad pains on various websites. They'll suddenly, right? They will start sending you ads. They started sending me ads for my own books. I was really, really shocked. You know why? Because I paid that £74 and I put my book in the advertising catalogue, which means, oh, and Oli said here, Mount Hermon is also located on the 33-degree parallel, 33rd degree parallel. Fallen angels, all right. That's interesting. Ian R. Crane used to talk about Mount Hermon. But you see, this means that anyone with this kind of interest, anyone with this kind of interest is going to sooner or later, they're going to get an ad for my book. Sweep says, my video, Glenn Steckley and the Adamski Foundation, great new book, The UFO Reality, Can Truth Portrayal. Here's the link to get to know him. If I put the link, it won't show. Well, Sweep, try it. I might have to approve it. It's weird. Let's just have it. Sometimes it says like blocked, and I have to approve it because I'm like the admin. But put it there, and I'll see if it could be. I can't see it, I'm afraid, mate. But yeah. Welsh Ripper. Hello, Welsh Ripper. When's the Rendlesham Forest movie out? Oh, it's out, and it was out and in very, very quickly, unfortunately. That's a long and really, really sordid story, I'm afraid. If you go to the Capel Green website and look at Soil Green, the various videos about that, yeah. I'm missing an Crane. Yeah, I do, actually, yeah. DJ says, I'm bald on top, so I speak from experience. I'm bald everywhere, so same here. But you know what? Yeah, Sweep. Sorry about that, mate. They don't the link doesn't appear. But I know you've got a new video out, haven't you? I haven't watched it yet, but I haven't had time. But you've got a new video out. I'll catch up with it before I go away. Yeah, this actually is going to be my last video for quite a long time by my standards, about 2 weeks, because I'm going away on holiday. Well, it's going to be like a working holiday. Obviously, I'll be taking my camera and making some footage and things like that, because I'm going camping in Cornwall. Me and a friend are going to head for Cornwall, and we're going to do some exploring and visit some. And we will be visiting some paranormal places. So there will be a Herpanmo TV video about it. So it's not just a holiday. I don't do normal holidays. EA audits. Hello. What do you think about the 2027 NHE protection lapse? What's that? Oh, Tessa says Ben's books are as good as the Watchmaker's Daughter series by C.J. Archer. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you very much. I've heard of those. Thanks. But if you are interested, if you were looking for books about the Roswell incident, they will literally appear. Oh, InsurTech lives in Cornwall, Pennonporth. Oh, right, cool. I might bump into you while I'm down there. Yeah, but it's like so anyone searching for books about the Roswell incident, at some point they are going to find my books. I'm actually going to try something else now. Let's just see if I can find myself using. Just suppose I just want to ask AI about something, and it just says, "I'd like to read a book about the Roswell incident." This is going to be interesting. I bet you at some point when I ask a lot of these questions, it'll eventually recommend me. The absolute best books to read about the Roswell incident depend on whether you're looking for a deep dive into the UFO cover-up theory, a historical retrospective, or the official government explanation. And it gives you various things here. Not the day after Roswell. That's just the Roswell incident, published by Charles Bulitz and William Moore. I've got a copy of that. Case closed. That is the government. That's the debunk. And then UFO crash at Roswell. Genesis of a modern myth. All right. If you prefer an objective academic approach, oh bloody hell, this is debunking thing, or it may be just like a kind of a folklore study, or we're not saying whether it's real or not real, but we're interested in the psychology. I actually went to see one of those people the other day, and in Codway Hall. I'll just say here, has any fiction been written? Has any fiction been written about the Roswell incident? Let's just see to see how many questions I have to ask before it starts recommending me. Yes, Roswell incident has inspired an entire subgenre of fiction, ranging from prestige sci-fi and historical thrillers to young adult romance and comic adaptation. Because the real-world law involves government cover-ups, alien autopsies, and secret technology, fiction writers have found it to be incredibly fertile ground. Majestic by Whitley Strieber, I've heard of that one. The Roswell Conspiracy by Boyd Morrison, I've read that. I actually reviewed it. Did I review it? Let's just have a look. I think I did. Let's have a look. Sorry, I just want to check. I'll just put in Boyd and see if it appears. Oh, no, that's the Coxswain on Alien Life. Don't want that. Here we are. I reviewed it here. The Roswell Conspiracy by Boyd Morrison, and there is the URL there, so you can find that out. You will see this. You should all be able to see this. Roswell by Alan Robert Moore, a deeply researched piece of historical fiction that humanizes the actual historical figure involved, such as Rancho Mac Brazel, Major Jesse Marcel. It treats the legend like a classic historical drama, focusing on the psychological stress of the individuals caught in the crosshairs of the military commands. Right. I've actually another one is actually, it may not be on this list because it's quite new and a bit obscure, but it's called Hush by M.D. Selig. It covers other things as well. Roswell High. Okay, great. Are there any that are what you might call alternative histories? get the spelling right. Alternative, that's alternative histories, in which the aliens were real, but the cover-up failed or never happened. Let's just see what it says now, because this is a bit more specific now. Are there any that's in terms of fiction, that what you might call alternative histories, in which the aliens were real, but the cover-up failed and never happened? Yes, there are several fascinating alternative histories where Roswell aliens were real, but the government failed to keep it a secret or chose to reveal it openly. Novels where the Roswell cover-up failed: Return of the Archons by Harry Turtlelove, A Space Race written by Nathan Green, Back in the USSA, The Coming of the Goon. Why am I not here? What other questions can I ask? Oh, bloody hell. What other questions can I ask, guys? I don't want to just say, I don't want to say like, oh, what about the one by Ben Emlyn Jones? I don't want to say that. What else can I say about the book that will make it? I know. Are any part of a trilogy? Let's ask if there's any part of a trilogy. Here we go. Are there any trilogies? Let's have a look. Are there any trilogies? Let's have a look. Because my book's, of course, part of a trilogy. Yes, there are multi-book series. The Roswell Chronicles, Area 51 trilogy, World War trilogy, Waterworld tetralogy by Harry Turtlelove. All right. Come on, where am I? Any ideas for more questions I can ask? Let's have a look. DJ says, AI is suppressing Ben because he's a straight white male, not a communist. All right. Here's a good question. Any Roswell books written by a Welsh author who lives in Oxford? Oh, right. That's British. Yeah, I think CCG, that's a little bit too obvious. Pooja says British. Right, yeah. That might be the thing. So I'll just say here. Yeah, it'd be cheating. CCG, if I give yours, it'll be cheating a bit. Are there any by British authors? Yes, several prominent authors have. Hey! You! Finally! You were right. Several prominent British authors have tackled the Roswell incident, contributing alternative history novels, dark comedies, and multi-book sci-fi series. And we have here Kim Newman, Back in the USSA. That's already been mentioned, this one. A celebrated British horror and science fiction author wrote the alternative history collection Back in the USSA. In his timeline, the Roswell craft crashes inside a communist United States. Rather than a military cover-up, the socialist government proudly parades the alien technology to the public as a triumphant propaganda tool against a capitalist Great Britain. All right, okay. Irving Welsh. Now, Irving Welsh is quite famous. The Roswell incident. The acclaimed Scottish author of Trainspotting. All right, I don't know about this. I mean, I don't know. I didn't know about this. Took a sharp satirical turn into UFO territory with his short fiction piece, The Roswell Incident. Welsh injects his trademark dark Scottish humour and gritty realism into the theme, placing with the tropes of alien contact and working class life. All right. And then finally, here we go. Ben Emlyn Jones, Roswell Revealed: A World After Disclosure, which is not this one. It's the second one in the trilogy. For a full-length alternative history exploration from a British perspective, this novel dives straight into the failed cover-up scenario. It maps out a timeline where global governments are forced to admit the reality of the 1947 crash, exploring the political, religious, and social collapse of the world in the decades that follow. Check out the book details on Amazon. Yes, finally, thank you. And here's the it ends with some non-fiction books about the British Roswell, which is the Rendlesham Forest incident by Philip Mantle. Oh, this is where Russia's Roswell incident, right? Tracking down Eastern European equivalents. I think that's the one he wrote with Paul Stonehill, or to give him his proper name, Pavlov Stonehillov, and Georgina Bruni, You Can't Tell the People. I've read both those books, but I don't know why they add that on, because I just asked for non-fiction. I asked for fiction specifically. But there you go, guys. There you go. I just had to add the British as a qualifier, and then suddenly there I am. So yeah, and DJ says, funny I mentioned communism as it popped back in the USSA. Yeah, that sounds like that song by the Beatles, Back in the USSR. Gary Robinson, hello, how are you? Pride and Dignity, yeah. We are being watched, lol. So yeah, that's good, isn't it? That's good news. That's good news. Oh, EA audits the last Pope thing. Oh no, man. Oh God, the last Pope thing appeared literally just as I was finishing with the last live stream on Wednesday. Suddenly, this Y-Files thing popped up saying, "Oh, you know that last Pope prophecy you've been talking about, Ben? It didn't actually say that, but I've been talking a lot about the last Pope. I haven't covered it on a panel TV, I don't think, but I did do a couple of third rails about it. Saint Malachi, yes, the prophecy of Saint Malachi, which I thought that was all over because Pope Leo was like the 113th Pope, which means you can't have this prophecy. But then bloody Y-Files have just published this thing saying, "Oh, by the way, that's back on again." You thought that had been debunked? Well, no, I haven't finished watching the video yet, but I'll get to watch it. So it looks like that apocalypse is not postponed just yet. And he says, "Oh, but it's all going to kick off next year, apparently." Bloody hell! I can't be doing with all these apocalypses. Soon, you see, this was frustrating because we just debunked the bloody the gravity anomaly one, and then suddenly, Y-Files. Oh, prophecy of the popes. Yes, actually, Saint Malachi got it slightly wrong. I'm gonna have to cover it again. I'll do it next year when it's all relevant. But yeah, bloody hell. Yeah, Malachi Malaki. Yeah. Okay. So what's next? Let's have a look. I think that's everything in my notes. Yeah, I've covered everything in my notes. So what can I add except oh, Tessa says here, Pope Benedict didn't die. Francis wasn't really Pope then, so one more Pope to go. Is it something? Is that what it is? Because of course Benedict actually abdicated, which is extremely rare. He's only the second Pope ever to abdicate. The last one was in like the 8th century or something. What is this, DJ? NHE protection lapse. Interesting theory. I'll have to Google it now. Let's have a look. NHE protect the. All right. Protection lapse, medical and all right. I can't find anything. Yeah, could you tell me more about it? Because I don't know about that. DJ says next year will be worse. 2027 to 2030 is going to be wild. Oh God, I don't know exactly what I don't know. I mean the whole bloody thing is, the whole world at the moment is so confusing, isn't it? But so it's so what I think what they're saying is that they're discounting one of the popes, which means that Pope Leo is now. Oh, Polarity. I like Polarity. Where is he then? All right, I'll have a look at Polarity because he's cool. He's this young Australian chap who does a really good Polarity. Yeah, he does a really, really good like UFO channel. Let's have a look. What's this about? What's this about, EA? I'm intrigued. Let's have a look. Cattle mutilations. Oh, Dr. Jonathan Reed. Can you believe this poser is back? Can you believe that? Goodness me. I gave him the benefit of the doubt for a long time. He went to Contact in the Desert. Oh, man. I wish I could have gone. I'll go next year. I really want to go next year. Let's have a look at his live streams. Tracking or controlling alien implants. Yeah. Where is it, EA? I can't see it. All right, but so they were basically what we're so Pope Leo is now the last Pope. Oh God. Francis was a Jesuit. Yeah, he was the first Jesuit. Make Mel Gibson Pope. Mel Gibson is actually. I think Mel Gibson has been excommunicated because he's a member of the SPI St. Pius community, who was actually SSPX. That's it, SSPX. He's a member of SSPX, so I think he's been excommunicated. But there's him. I mean, there was this guy, one of Nick Collistrom's friends, Richard Williamson. He was a bishop who was excommunicated. There's a whole load of other people from the SSPX, yeah. But they rejected it at Vatican II. So when they hold mass, the priest has his back to the audience or to the congregation, yeah. Opus Dei, yeah. That was in the Da Vinci Code, yeah. All right, guys. Does anyone else have anything they want to say or ask or bring up? Because we're kind of done. I think that's the end of the. That's everything to do with the 10th anniversary of this book. Obviously, I will do 10th anniversaries for the others as well, which is let me just find out. Let me just remind myself of when they're going to be, because I think let's have a look. Because the last one was Roswell Redeemed. Here we go. Okay, yes. So Roswell Rising, August 2016 was when it was published. Now, Roswell Revealed was published in October 2017, which means the 10th anniversary will be October next year. I can't believe I wrote so quickly. And then finally, Roswell Redeemed was published in December 2018. So, that's actually the next. So there'll be another one next year, and then the one after for every 10th anniversary of all three books. I'll cover. I will feel cover. Nothing as it seems says. Good to see E. Jones in such a good mood. Thanks. Nothing as it seems. Well, I'm pleased. I'm happy to have achieved this. ECG says, how much would a 650-page paperback book cost to self-publish approximately? Well, if you use Ingram Spark, it's about 20. This is like obviously shorter than that. It's actually it's just under 400 pages, but it cost me £21 for the origination. That's to produce the copy, which goes to the printing, and then that's it. Basically, you pay for that, and then the money for the print, the money for the producer comes in by taking a cut of the sales. That's it. And now I don't know. It may be a little bit more for the origination costs for for a 650-page book. It's not that much though. It's not that much. Sweeps, the Wi-Fi's did a great episode on the Pope prophecies. I'm halfway through it right now, Sweeps. I've got to watch the rest of it because I'll have to cover this, won't I? Because I think I mentioned it, didn't I, on my Conclave review, and I've certainly covered it on on Third Rail Radio. What's the company again? It's called Ingram Spark. It's called Ingram Spark. Just put Ingram Spark. I'll show them to you because these are the ones I use. Here we are, Ingram Spark. There we go. It's these people. They're very, very good. Ingram Spark. You have a story, share it with the world. And so it basically is a self-publishing resource. So they're the ones I've used. They've always been very good. Now, I mean, the biggest cost actually for the book was getting I actually employed a professional typesetter on all three occasions. The third one, for the third book, I had to actually get a friend of mine to do it. It's actually Sophie the Porter's poet's husband, because the original typesetter dropped me because I think Revealed was too politically incorrect. EA orders says here, 4-channel New Jersey drones were protection, but the facility is shutting down. Well, I think those drones were not man-made in my view. Hello, Jake Yorkman. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. And DJ says, Opus Dei have operatives in the Labour Party in the UK. That doesn't surprise me because they're run by all kinds of things. Tessa says Benedict was a Nazi. Yes. Pope Benedict XIII was, or 16th, whatever it was. I think he was in the Hitler Youth or something, wasn't he? Tessa said he tried to open the Vatican Vaults Library and had it up on internet 4 months ago and he got shut down. There's loads. I'm sure this is like Dan Brown style thrillers. Sweeps. Thumbs up time for the group, Ben. Thanks all. Thank you, Sweeps. Much appreciated. You're very welcome. Okay, guys. So and TJ says thanks, Ben. Top man. You're welcome, CCG. And this is going to be my last video for quite a long time. By my standards, I'm talking maybe 2 weeks because of my trip to Cornwall, which I don't know exactly how long it's going to be because I'm camping. But I am going to Cornwall, yes. It's funny because I have been to Cornwall twice before without really visiting it properly. And indeed, it was when I went, one of my sky watching on Devon videos, you remember, I actually went to Tintagel, but we just basically drove there and drove back. It wasn't really a visit. This is my first proper trip to Cornwall. My first ever proper trip. I also went when I was 18, I actually spent 2 months at HMS Raleigh on basic training as well, which I got kicked out of. But again, you don't actually see Cornwall. It's just the training center. That's all. You're just there at the training center. So again, I didn't actually see Cornwall properly. So those 2 times, those are the only times I've been to Cornwall without actually really going there. So this time I'm really going to go there. I'm actually going to see it. It's absolutely brilliant. And CCG says, have a great holiday. Used to camp in Cornwall, often hitchhiking from London. We're camping. Yeah, we're camping there. Yeah. Jake says, have you heard the news about the Jason Arde guy being found? Yeah, unalived. Yeah, we've just been talking about that. The news just literally broke just before the live stream. And that's very sad. I'm very sad to hear that. And it looks like it is it's his own work. And his family have my condolences, his ex-wife, his kids, and all his friends. But I know what's going to happen is that the sort of evil right-wing bigots like podcasters, the Lotus Eaters, and people, they're going to get blamed for this. But what were we supposed to do? Just keep quiet about all these lies he told? Were we just not to mention it, just in case? This, it's. Of course, you can't keep quiet about things like that. And I'm sorry this has happened, but it's not their fault. It's not the fault of the people who just simply just talked about him. It's not their fault. And I hope that I really hope they don't get blamed for this. Sweep says, don't get abducted, Ben. Cornwall is a big hotspot for abductions. It is indeed. In fact, Cornwall is the most paranormal place on Earth. For its size and population, there's more cases of all kinds of things reported there than anywhere else in the world. Everything from sea monsters to strange owl men to UFOs, ghosts, you name it. Cornwall has more than anywhere else. DJ says, camping on a site with a shower block and electricity. Oh yes, oh yes. A little bit of creature comforts. We are going to have a little bit of creature comforts. Hatchie says, Ben, take care in the tent at night. Yeah, it's all right. We're not going to pitch under a tree in Bodmin Moor. Don't worry. DJ says, had part of my youth living in Devon, and you went. Yeah, I love to go there and careful of the Spy Centre in Bude. Cool. All right, I didn't know about that. Only Dan's. Hello, Only Dan's. Welcome. And Pooja Pan says it's Cider's fault for the paranormal activity. Well, in that case, I mean, I drink enough of it, so how come we don't get it in Oxford? Jake says, Ben, I was going to ask, were you kicked out of the Navy? Things worked out best. You would have been in there for years. I was very early. Yeah, I was very early on in basic training. And so I was never active service or anything like that when I was young. It was very sad at the time. And I was a bit like David Icke, when he gets kicked, when he has to quit football. It was a bit like that. But, sometimes, as with David Icke, sometimes you think, well, maybe that wasn't the right path for me after all. If David Icke had stayed where he was, where would he be? He'd probably be doing Gary Lineker's job. Yeah, he'd be on £21 million a year, but he would be just like a BBC clone, wouldn't he? So yeah, you never. Sometimes things can seem awful when they happen, really, really bad. And this was like a very early kind of like professional disaster in my life, but you move on. You move on. CCG says, did you yomp from Stroud Hill to Goose Green? You watch Bottom, don't you? Yes, there's that brilliant scene with Richard Llewellyn and Rick Mail. Because Rick Mail is like committing, he's a stolen valor guy, pretending to be, 10 long years I fought in the Falklands. 10 long years. Yeah. All right, guys, yeah. But thank you very much, all of you. Much appreciated. I look forward to coming back and telling you all about my little trip to Cornwall, and indeed doing other things as well, because there's lots more I've got planned in terms of like videos, other videos I'm making. Tessa said, I'd just gotten into the opera company, then contracted Hong Kong flu. Was good, as I needed to help autistic son. All right. Well, I hope you're all right now, Tessa. That sounds pretty horrible. It really, really does. Well, you take care of yourself. Anyway, thank you very much, all of you. And do remember, if you haven't got it yet, go out and get a copy. Roswell Rising, a novel of disclosure. Available at all good bookshops now, priced £10. And read the others as well, because they're all available now. Oh, hello, Gordy Miller. Have you seen Rick Mail's last show about 9/11? Then he left us. Yes. Oh, by the way, do you know what his last movie was? Just a little trick, right? Google Rick Mail's last movie. And I mean, this is great because this means millions of Rick Mail fans are going to really discover something interesting. Dude, that's your homework. All right. Thanks, Jake Yorgman. Much appreciated. I will see you again soon. Take care in my absence. All the best. Hospital Porters, pride and dignity. Stop the New World Order.